Ladies and gentlemen, here's a controversial idea. How about the DA actually cools it with its anti-Russian sentiment? Because, my friends, Russia is sort of keeping the ANC in power. And the reason I'm saying this, based on the latest political party funding, the ANC received 15 million rand from a Russian-based company. The ANC is quite neutral in terms of Russia, in terms of the Ukrainian special military operation. Maybe if the DA weren't so ardent about Russia being a terrorist state, maybe Russia wouldn't at all costs be funding the ANC. What are your views on this?
So my view on this is that if the DA was actually a nationalist party that gave a shit about South Africans first and the rest of the world second, that they would most definitely adopt your point of view, which is to say that they don't really give a flying monkeys about what happens in Russia because it has no bearing on them. But the problem with liberals is that liberals want to interfere with everybody else's sense of morality. And in this instance, that's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to adopt the liberal viewpoint, the progressive viewpoint of all Democrat-type parties around the world. And as we've seen, all of them say, Putin bad, Ukraine war bad. Now, were they to be a true nationalist party, they would say, right, what would be to the benefit of South Africans? And the first answer to that should be very self-evident, and that is to remove the ANC from power. And what would be the easiest way to shut the ANC down? Well, it would be to deny them of their funding. Now, were they to take a practical approach on the Russian-Ukraine war, they would quickly find that their political opponents, their own funding, would dry up, which in effect would render the ANC obsolete, or at least bankrupt in many instances. They may, even if they took an even more proactive stance on it, find that some of the funding was redirected to itself, which would allow it to campaign better in order for democratic change in South Africa. That's what a true nationalist party would do. Unfortunately, nationalism and the DA doesn't really go together now, does it, Ramon?
No, it does not. But here's the thing, right, about this Russia stuff. All the countries in the world are like, oh, Russia's bad, Russia's terrible, Russia this, Russia that. If you look at the export stats, like the exports between Russia and the EU, or Russia and other places, it has gone up since the Ukraine war. That's realpolitik. Right? Have this megaphone saying how bad Russia is. Putin's mad. He's got cancer. He's going to die soon. He wants a coup. Whatever. All of that stuff. But then the realpolitik is, listen, Russia, we really need you. You got the gas. You got the exports of wheat or fertilizer or whatever the case might be. I think the DA is the only party in the entire world who are like, Russia bad, and then take it to the nth degree without realizing that it's basically phony. It's basically just PR. And by them not understanding that, they are pushing Russia to fund the ANC in perpetuity. So as far as we understand, based on the sources we have, Russia does want the ANC EFF coalition come 2024 because, let's face it, the ANC is neutral, apparently, to the Ukraine war, which is something that we actually agree with because it doesn't affect us in South Africa at all. It's a regional conflict over borders that means nothing to us. If the DA understands that, I think the Russians wouldn't be so big on this ANC-EFF coalition. They might actually want to move funds around for regime change in South Africa, which isn't a bad thing.
So here's the thing. I mean, if you actually pay attention to what the ANC says quite a lot, you will notice that sometimes it's the great flip-floppers, right? It's like the EFF. One minute they say Russia bad, next minute they say Russia good. It really depends on who's writing the check and who they're talking to at that point in time. And I think that's one of the things that we need to remind ourselves. South Africa claims to be neutral. It's not. It's purely that the Russians cast a bigger check than the Ukrainians did. I guarantee you, if the Ukrainians cut them a bigger check, they'd be like, oh, Russia bad, Ukraine good. Let's not get confused over something. Prior to the special military operation, Ukraine was determined as the most corrupt country in Europe. Prior to the special military operation, Ukraine did have a problem with neo-Nazis. It is something that's been determined by the UN Human Rights Commission. We cannot whitewash these facts. To claim that the narrative is purely Russian bad, Ukraine good, is to whitewash the entire situation and make it a simple black and white. It is not a simple black and white. However, I tell you what is a simple black and white. That is, South Africa needs great reform. No one's going to argue that. And that great reform must come in the form of the ANC being removed from power. And in this instance, I think the DA should side with the Russians. Not side with them, not like join the axis of evil type thing. They should just take a pragmatic approach. And maybe the pragmatic approach is to do exactly what the ANC are doing and just going, doesn't involve us, guys. Don't ask us. Call someone else. And just leave it at that. You don't have to proactively denounce it. You don't have to proactively and publicly praise it. Just say it doesn't involve you. As a nationalist party, you're interested in your own affairs first. I don't see why that would be such a harder position to take.
And it's not like it's out of this world for a position to adopt. India is taking it, Turkey is taking it, Israel has taken it. Like a lot of democracies have taken this position. A lot of, countries that are liberal democracies have taken this position as well. But for the DA to take the position, it seems like it's not something that's within their ambit for some reason as foreign policy. Like, they need to look at the wider picture. What is best for South Africa? The best for South Africa is to remove the ANC. Who's funding the ANC? The Russians. Oh, why is that? Because the ANC is neutral to the conflict in Ukraine, whereas the DA is overtly hostile towards Russia, doesn't talk to the ambassador, doesn't talk to anyone concerning the Russian mindset or the reasons for that special military operation. But in actual fact, they might be putting themselves into a bigger corner because the Russians are the only ones funding the ANC based on the Political Party Funding Act. In a weird way, if the DA became more nationalist in a more realpolitik type of sense, the ANC could actually be maybe removed a lot quicker than through sort of an electoral vote in 2024, 2029. Just a thought. I would love to see what the audience thinks of this. I think we're going to get hammered in the comments.
Yeah, whenever we do a video that includes anything with Russia, we just get votes of, you just want people to die and white supremacists and I don't know, whatever the other bullcrap. But we're purely taking a practical viewpoint on this, and we're also looking at it as nationalists. Nationalists, as in we feel that the interests of our country should be served before the interests of others. We purely want to see South Africa thrive and survive and to be a strong country for all. The best way to do that is to remove the ANC. And one of the easiest ways to remove the ANC is to cut their funding. The easiest way to cut their funding is not to get involved in the Russian-Ukraine war. It's as simple as that. I think that's a very pragmatic approach to take.
Yeah, as I said, in line with India and a variety of other democracies around the world. So DA, let us know in the comments how much you hate us. We went from DA shills to not so DA shills. And for those of you who are watching, let us know in the comments down below. Do you think we are right in this respect? If not, let us know. Thanks for watching. Cheers.